And there's an amazing scene in the book where you go to see a doctor and the doctor basically tells you it's your fault.
It was a gynecologist. It was actually while she was examining me. And she said, I think when women don't work, they become less interesting to their husbands.
I'm amazed you didn't take your legs out of the stirrups and squeeze her face.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Obsessed the Podcast. I'm Kevin Fallon, your entertainment guide through all the TV shows, movies, and pop culture news that we think is unmissable. And today we have a very special treat. The icon, the legend, the Daily Beast podcast maven, Joanna Coles, is doing our big interview today. She's interviewing the author Belle Burden, whose book Stranger is burning up the bestseller list. It's all everyone is talking about. It's about her surprise divorce, and she's going to get into all of that. But first, I have a bone to pick with Joanna because as part of my job here at the Daily Beast, I was forced to watch the Melania documentary. Joanna, please justify this for me.
I'm the only person, I think, that quite enjoyed the Melania.
Really?
Yeah, why did you hate it? I mean, I understand why you didn't like it, but let's get into it a bit.
Well, my first thing, it's like not a sexy headline. It was boring. It was just a really, to me, boring documentary. It reminded me of like when you're taking a flight and they do those like pre-flight videos where it's like, here at United Airlines, what we care about is family and synergy and travel and adventure. It was like all of that kind of like business propaganda, but for the office of the First Lady in a way that was not illuminating. I didn't learn anything new about her. It was not exciting or dramatic, even though she was filming the lead up to the inauguration. I just like wanted there to be something redeeming or like remotely watchable about it, and I didn't find that.
Oh, I did learn quite a lot about
Really?
her. Yeah, it's possible that you knew more about her than I did going into it, but I learned quite a lot. First of all, that I thought she was signalling very strongly that she wants us to know she does not sleep with Donald Trump.
Yes.
It was very clear that they live separate lives.
There was one scene where they come back from the inauguration balls and Donald says goodnight.
Yep.
And leaves to go to a completely different part of
the White House.
Yeah.
So that was very clear. The fact that for Jimmy Carter's funeral, they both fly in from other places. And he goes, you look like a movie star. You look like a movie star. You look like a movie star. And it was as if he hadn't seen her for some time. And then they have a conversation in the back of the car where she goes, do you speak to Baron? And he goes, he's a cute kid. We have cute conversations.
As if he had just met him for the first time.
Exactly, as if he's kind of like, oh yeah, we have a kid together. And she goes, I love him. He's very smart. And so what you see is a couple who is not used to having any intimacy whatsoever. I found it like an ad, and I quite like well-filmed ads. And I thought Brett Ratner, dragged out of exile because he was Me Too.
Brett Ratner, yeah.
Yeah, sex pest Brett Ratner. And then on the day that the movie comes out, the pictures of him released with Jeffrey Epstein snuggling up to a girl who is redacted. She is entirely redacted. So there was the irony there. But I thought that it was like watching a good commercial for a sort of feminine product. If you use this feminine product, you could end up as the First Lady. In fact, there should be a feminine product called First Lady.
Well, this is your new revenue stream, I think.
It could be a new revenue stream, and it's called Femme Product.
I'll be reading out on the podcast for First Lady.
Yes, you will. Yeah, exactly. Always keep First Lady in your purse because you never know when you're going to get caught short. I found the whole thing quite enjoyable, actually. The music's fantastic, great sound.
The music is hilarious.
Yeah.
Like it opens up with the Rolling Stones' Give Me Shelter.
Yeah.
With like this drone shot over Mar-a-Lago.
Which I was riveted by. I love to see Mar-a-Lago, and it's got weird roof. I was a bit concerned about the roof. I was like, ooh, that looks like it might leak a bit.
But like knowing Brett Ratner's filmography, like action thrillers like Rush Hour, and he's one of the X-Men movies.
Have you ever seen Rush Hour?
I have seen Rush Hour.
Oh, you have? Because I've never knowingly seen a Brett Ratner movie.
Chris Tucker, when I was like in high school, that was like I was the perfect demographic for that.
Okay.
But like knowing like his repertoire, if you could call it that.
His oeuvre.
Every time she walked into a private plane or someone got into a helicopter, I was like, it's going to explode.
Oh, that's
I
funny.
had this like, because of the way that it's shot so ridiculously for a documentary. There's all these drone shots and these very like energetic, swooping, moving camera shots that are unnecessary for a film about a lady who's just walking around the White House.
Right.
So because of that, every time there was something that like could lead to that kind of explosive action,
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, the Bidens are getting the helicopter.
Oh, that's that. The
Yeah.
Biden scene. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd never seen a Brett Ratner movie before. Secondly, I loved, to me, it was 50 Shades of Grey, the kind of porn of the one black SUV after another, the helicopters, the private planes. It all felt to me very billionaire porn.
But what you're speaking to is one of my biggest gripes with the movie is that they don't actually show her doing anything, or like when she's meeting with someone, we don't actually get to like hear what they're saying or how she feels about it, or
Well, I don't
any
think she
emotion.
does do anything. What if that turns out to be the most true thing about the film, that she doesn't do anything? She just approves or listens to other people as they explain why they've decided to do the table setting as they have.
And the entire film is done with her as a narrator. So like we will see her
Yeah.
walk from room to room. If anything, we know for those 20 days, she did a lot of walking from one room to another, from one car to a jet, because we see all of that.
And quite impressive because her heels are very high. I think those are 120 millimeter. Is that possible? No, that would be. Well, I think
Well, you're
they're
talking
very
in a metric system that I don't know.
Okay, well, they're the highest of, I think, the Manolos you can get.
Yeah.
Because I
mean, her feet never
examined
touch
them.
the ground, for sure. Her heels never touch the ground.
Her heels never touch the ground, apart from right at the very end where she takes them off, and that seems to be a metaphor.
Yeah. So we see her doing all of these things, but we don't actually get to experience her doing these things. All we get is her narration after the fact, which is, I mean, the writing of those little monologues she gives is so stilted and so boring.
Well, it's very AI, I think. I mean, I'm assuming. I think they had someone who got fired, and it feels very AI to me, where she's like, I do foster future for children global initiative. And it's all sort of empty language. There's no specific.
And she tries over and over again to make philanthropy sort of the point of this. Like, I want to prove to everyone, this is what I do. I'm doing something useful. I have these foundations. I have these initiatives. But she never actually explains what these things are or what she's doing. She just says over and over again,
Right.
I have these initiatives. And then we're supposed to be like, oh, well, round of applause for you.
I think global initiative.
Yes, exactly.
I have
Global
global initiative. Yeah. Well, and then she speaks to Brigitte Macron about global initiative.
That was quite the jump scare, was it not? When
Yeah.
she opens her computer and Brigitte Macron is on the screen.
Right. That was amazing.
And Brigitte Macron does more to explain what these initiatives are than Melania does in the 10 seconds that she appears on that Zoom call.
She does, although I noticed that Queen Rania from Jordan, or is it Queen Sophia? I can't remember. No, it's Queen Rania, I think, gets very competitive. And Melania goes, I have foundation, fostering future foundation. And the Queen Rania goes, yeah, I've got a foundation. It's
a big whoop.
Competing foundations, competitive philanthropy.
It is surprising to me. I guess, surprising is the wrong word because we've now come to expect this, but like how many people are willing to pal up to her, to cozy up to her, and sort of ditch their morals and every misgiving they have about the Trumps to appear in a documentary like this.
Well, I guess that you would do if you're the First Lady of France or the First Lady of Jordan, because you have to, you want to be aligned with the Americans in certain ways, right? I understand why they took part, but you don't see any of Melania's friends in it. You only
Does she
see.
have friends?
Well, it's a really great question. She did have a friend with Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, and they famously fell out over the first inauguration, where they tried to blame Stephanie, and I think said that she'd, basically taken $20 million over it, and it all ended in disaster. And a very good book by Stephanie called Melania and Me. But there are no friends of Melania in the movie, so again, suggesting she's very isolated. And she's clearly not very friendly with her husband. They behave as if they barely know each other. I thought it showed, and also it doesn't show anything about her actual life. So we have her in the White House. We have her agreeing to David Mon, the event planner's tabletop for a couple of dinners. But we don't really see anything else at all.
Yeah, every time we see her, she's already in full glam, wearing some chic designer dress and her sky-high stilettos. She's already prepared for day. Like, it doesn't help dispel the criticisms of her of just being this robot Stepford wife.
Well, I don't think she wants to dispel. I think she probably likes criticisms, right? She looked great for Melania, which is she's got a very sort of inscrutable face.
Very blank stare.
Yeah, very blank stare. Face. Yeah. I mean, she looks like and she behaved like the sort of catalogue model that she was.
There was the one highlight for me of this movie is when I call it like when the robot was on the fritz. She's coming back from one of the inauguration balls.
Yeah.
And the YMCA is playing.
Yeah.
And she's doing arm movements to
Right.
YMCA. They're not the right arm movements.
No,
they're crazy. And
Yeah.
she's just like smiling at the camera and dancing and looking at everyone around her, I guess maybe expecting that they're going to dance along with her.
Right.
But no one is paying her any mind. They're all ignoring her. It's just her staring into the camera, doing these insane dance moves to YMCA. It's as if like someone had like accidentally dialed up the controls on this robot.
Right. Or the battery was slightly kind of
Yes.
like, yeah. I mean, she's very much clearly an accessory to his life, right? If you were buying dolls of the presidency, he's president doll, and she's like an accessory. He plugs her in when he needs her, and she's not around when he doesn't. And that's, I think, what the documentary, in as much as it is a documentary, it's really an ad, shows you.
And one thing that really got on my nerves after the opening were all the headlines about the box office, and it did better than expected at the box office. It made $8 million in its opening weekend. People were expecting $5 million. But people were talking about it as some like historic box office win, which it very plainly is not. It is still a flop in every way, even though it did better than predicted. It had a budget of $40 million plus another $35 million to promote, so that's $75 million. It will never make that back. The movie that won the opening, that same box office that weekend, was called Send Help. It had the same $40 million budget. It made $20 million at the box office, more than double what Melania made. And Melania will have to be in theaters for the next 7 years to even approach a box office that is compared to Fahrenheit 9/11, compared to March of the Penguins, compared to all these other documentaries that have had huge success. It was driving me crazy that it was being framed as some sort of win, because it's not.
Well, I think it's a win for Jeff Bezos and Amazon, right? It's not a documentary film. Otherwise, you wouldn't employ the sex pest Brett Ratner. Right. And it's not a documentary in that it reveals inadvertent things about its subject, but it was produced by her, and it's just like a long ad or a VH1 video, a music video. But I think it's already paid back in spades, probably, what Jeff Bezos and Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, needed, which is, to suck up to Trump.
Well, that's really the only thing that it succeeds at doing.
Right. And it may work on Amazon Prime. I mean, coming to you near your Amazon Prime account over the next few months, I'm assuming. Yeah. But I think a lot of women in particular will be interested in watching it because she is stylish, she is elegant. The fact is that she doesn't appear to have natural style. It appears to be put together by people around her. And I love the bit where the designer, Hervé Pierre, and I think Adam Lippers sort of say, her mother was a designer. She really understands fashion. She's really able to give us instruction. And actually the instruction is like, a bit tighter here.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like...
It doesn't fit.
Yeah, it's not like she's saying, well, I need 2 darts here and this needs to be a higher armhole and I want a different length and, the silhouette needs to be changed. It's just like, no, too tight.
It doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Like, that's her genius feedback.
Yeah, I think back of neck needs to be higher. So So it's a sort of bought-in aesthetic, but nevertheless, I do think that she's able to pull off the elegance. But you're right, you never see her without full glam, and there is no narrative arc whatsoever.
Yeah.
If you're expecting that, you will be very disappointed. But if you're expecting an ad for someone who is an accessory to our president as his wife, I think you will be sort of curious.
Yeah. Well, hearing your Melania impression almost makes me forgive you for forcing me to watch this.
I know, I'm sorry, but, sometimes, it could have been worse, Kevin. We could have sent you to see an actual Rush Hour movie.
Well, apparently that's coming up because part of this deal was
Yes.
to make another Rush Hour movie. So
I wish
there's
he
more
would-
hell to come.
Why doesn't he just make a movie about Jeffrey Epstein?
Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, that's what I want to see. Brett Ratner, who's in the know about Jeffrey Epstein, making a movie about Jeffrey Epstein. That I would watch.
Yes.
Well, maybe I wouldn't watch, actually, because it's all so horrid.
Everything is hard right now, so why not that?
Right, why not that? Who would play Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh God, who would
Sam Rockwell?
ever agree to do that?
I know, Sam Rockwell would be good.
He would be great, but it would
Wouldn't
be
Walter Coggins?
very problematic for a person's career, I think.
Well, yeah.
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 Well, Joanna, thank you for chatting with me. Be looking out for my expense report for this goddamn movie
That
ticket
you
in
wrote,
your inbox.
if anybody hasn't read your piece on Melania, the documentary, they need to go to the Daily Beast, type in Kevin Fallon, Melania, the documentary, because it was one of the funniest pieces I've read all year.
Oh, thank you.
It was excellent. It was really funny. In fact, there were a lot of us texting back and forth going, oh my God, did you read Kevin's review?
Okay.
So it was very good.
Okay, well, now I'm not going to expense that ticket, so thank you.
Oh, well, you could still expense the ticket. Did you get the Melania branded popcorn bucket?
Of course not.
Oh, I did get that.
You did?
I did get that.
How much
yeah.
was that?
It was $12.99.
Jesus.
Yeah,
All right, well, at least you have a souvenir to cherish.
I do. I'm debating what to do with it. What do you think I should do with it?
It should be like a mascot on the Inside Trump's Head podcast. You can just have it on the table the entire time.
Yeah, we could screw up bits of script and throw it into it or something. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be a guest on someone else's podcast.
Of course, thank you. And up next, we'll have Joanna's interview with Belle Burden.
Belle Burden is the author of Stranger, a memoir of marriage, which is currently #1 in the New York Times bestseller list, nonfiction. Belle, many congratulations.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here because I feel I had some insight into the process of you writing this book. And I even have a tiny non-named role in it. But your book has taken people by storm. They're saying that this is the modern memoir of a modern marriage. And I wondered, for those people who haven't yet read it, can you start by describing how you realized that something was not going according to plan?
Yes. And then I would love to touch on your role in my book, but we can talk about that a little bit later. What happened was, it was March of 2020, the second week of COVID lockdown. I think we all remember that time, which was so scary, and we didn't know when a vaccine would come or what was going to happen. My husband and 2 of my 3 kids, 2 daughters, moved to Martha's Vineyard, to our house there, which was very isolated. We actually had a very cozy, wonderful time of cooking and taking walks. My husband was chopping wood, building fires. It felt very safe and protected during this scary time. And then one night after dinner, I was mopping the floor, literally mopping the floor, and I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail and played it, and a man said, "I'm trying to reach Belle. Your husband is having an affair with my wife." And it was a complete and total shock, because I believed I was very happily married to a very steady, very trustworthy, a man who went to bed at 9 o'clock and never flirted with other women. And that night he was very apologetic and told me that it didn't mean anything and that he only loved me. But in the morning, he came into our bedroom fully dressed with a bag packed and said, "I want a divorce." I thought I was happy, but I'm not. And I'm leaving. And he walked out of our house, got in a Jeep, got on the ferry, and left the island, and then became someone I did not recognize at all.
It's such a lot to take in when you describe it like that. And what was your sort of? I mean, can you tell us a little bit? No, you write about it brilliantly. Your voyage of healing and what you did both physically and mentally, and of course, it was COVID, so you weren't able to tell your friends immediately other than on the telephone, and you didn't have anybody else around you with whom to grieve, with whom to try and understand, except your daughters who were too young, and obviously it was their father. So what was your how did you manage to cope in the first few weeks?
I did not cope well. I spent a lot of time on the bathroom floor. It's sort of a trope, but it's true, I think, because we end up there because our kids can't find us there. And I spent a
It's
lot
the
of
one
time
room with the lock on the door.
with a lock on the door. And something about the cold tile makes you feel like you're not going to fall through the bottom of the earth. A lot of time in bed. It was very hard for me to get out of bed. I only got out of bed when my daughters really needed something, and when I was pretending for them that everything was fine. And one of them knew and one of them didn't know. And I really had to depend on the phone. I do not like the phone. But I had I had friends call me every morning, my stepmother and my mother, checking in on me and really kind of trying to keep me alive. And that's when I met you, because you were my son's quarantine mom. We had never met. And you had, I think, 12 teenagers with you.
We had a lot of people in our house at that point.
And you and I spoke on the phone, and your kindness was just incredible. And you just kept saying, I've got him. I will take care of him, and I will teach him how to do laundry, and I will make sure he goes to school. And so there was, during a very dark time, such incredible kindness that people extended to me. And when you're in your most raw state, I think you really get to know your friends in a different way, and strangers come into your life in a different way. And that certainly happened to me, even though I was completely isolated on an island.
Do you think the marriage would have come to an end and you could have ridden out the affair had it not been for COVID? Did COVID force your now ex-husband to make a choice that ordinarily he might not have had to make?
I think about that a lot. I think COVID was an accelerant and an intensifier. And I think perhaps for him, the idea of being in this house with me, trying to work through this, I imagined therapy on Zoom and being stuck there together, which would have been awful, but trying to like figure it out. I think that was something he could not handle or tolerate. So I think it definitely accelerated him leaving, but it was so dramatic and so definitive, that my guess is it would have happened anyway, COVID or no COVID.
So one of the things that you write about so well in your book is how when you get divorced, when you get separated, and you're used to having you're used to having had a husband for the last 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You're part of a wider social circle. You're part of the local clubs in Martha's Vineyard, and all that falls away. Can you talk a little bit about that sense of just complete disorientation when everything that you thought was stable and, your word, safe, in fact turns out to be not at all what you thought it was?
Yes, you say that exactly correctly. It was like these pillars just started falling away. First, my husband, then there was also financial fears about my financial future, and the other piece was social world. You go from almost overnight, really overnight, feeling a part of something, feeling one of a group, your identity as a married person, as a wife. I was so central to how I thought of myself. And then you are thrust back into the same environment, but you feel like an alien. All of a sudden, you are something different through no action of your own. And that was a very strange experience. It was further isolating. And there were many people who moved towards me, who spoke to me about what was happening. I was like a totally open book, which is contrary to my normal personality. Whenever I ran into someone, I would say, he left me. I don't know why. I'm in so much pain. And some people moved towards that and some people moved away from it. And my story was dramatic, but I think it's true for a lot of divorced women. You go from being a part of something to not being a part of something, and that can feel really hard. And you're not invited to couples dinners anymore. You are something different that people are trying to figure out how to continue to absorb you into their social world. And sometimes it just takes time, and sometimes it's just forever different.
Well, and there's an amazing scene in the book where you go to see a doctor and the doctor basically tells you it's your fault.
Mm-hmm. I was a gynecologist, which makes you feel just extra vulnerable. It was actually while she was examining me. And she said, I have seen this a lot. And I think when women don't work, they become less interesting to their husbands. And
I'm amazed you didn't take your legs out of the stirrups and squeeze her face, just squeeze her face. What an insensitive and ludicrous thing to say.
Like all things, it's like in the moment, it's very hard to react, but then you're just stunned afterwards. And I think that she probably thought she was helping me by giving me this piece of information. And I think and I heard it at other places as well. I think it maybe made people feel more safe to think, if I work, this won't happen to me. But I think there is a story about career and staying home with kids, and I always felt like I had meaningful work, and I had made choices about being home with kids that I still am glad that I did. But I think in my marriage, my husband's work was the most important thing. It was the family enterprise. It was what we put all our energy towards. And I think sometimes in that situation, you lose sight of your own talents and passions. You move farther away from them. So I don't think what she said was true. I think it's still infuriating. I have a new gynecologist, thank God.
Good.
But
We should name and shame this gynecologist.
I know I won't do that, but I love my new gynecologist. But I think it hit hard because it may have come a little bit close to the truth in feeling like I had lost myself a bit in my marriage.
So you also came into the marriage with money. I mean, it's fair to say you come from a relatively, I know New York has, I know American families are less class-ridden than British families, but you came from a well-known family. Your grandmother was Babe Paley, a well-known socialite and fashion icon, friend of Truman Capote's, until he betrayed her. Your mother had a senior role in New York government.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about the scene with the prenup where your ex-husband is trying to make you change your prenup and against the advice of your lawyer, because your husband is on the phone with you, but your lawyer doesn't know he's on the phone. And of course, at this point, he's actually your fiance. You end up going against your lawyer's advice, which at the time probably didn't seem like a big deal, but 20 years on turns out to be a big deal.
It's a critical scene, and I'm glad you caught it, because some people move too quickly past it. But it was a critical scene because it is the moment where I changed my financial future. And I think that I knew those 20 years that I'd made a really bad decision in that moment. And the change was, normally in prenups, they normally say whatever you bring into the marriage remains yours, but what is earned during the marriage is split in some way. That's what our prenup said. My husband, my fiance at the time, asked me to change it to say that anything that was earned during the marriage would only be split if it was put into joint name. So we had to affirmatively choose that. So during the 20 years, I affirmatively chose that by buying our house and our apartment and putting them into joint name.
So you bought it with your money?
With my money. I took it out of trust, bought both with my money, and put them in joint name because I thought that's what you do in a marriage.
And just to be clear, you had a trust, so you had a private income. You end up buying your weekend house, your holiday house, and you buy your New York City apartment with your money. And your ex-husband now, as he is, did not contribute to that in any way.
No, he helped we had a small mortgage on the Vineyard house, and he helped pay for that. But the purchase price I paid, and for both properties. And then we met at a law firm, but he went into the finance world and worked at a fund of funds and then a hedge fund. And he made a lot of money, and he kept it all in his name, or the vast bulk of it in his name, that he didn't use for expenses. And that came as a shock to me because I thought we were both in it to share in our resources. And I signed our tax returns, but I didn't read them. I paid our bills, but I did not look at all our accounts. And that I'm a former corporate lawyer, but I somehow convinced myself that I couldn't understand it, or that he was better able to understand and manage it. And I trusted him completely. There was something that felt even romantic about him being in charge of all that. But I think if anything comes out of my book, I hope that younger women or contemporaries really take a look at their financial life and think about what would happen to them if the marriage ended.
And you said something earlier about that you knew you had made a bad decision when you changed the prenup against your lawyer's advice. When did you reflect on that? What were the moments that you reflected on that anew over the 20 years? Were those moments that now you think about them, you realize, oh, there was something going on under the surface that perhaps you didn't know?
I think the moments that I thought about it were, wow, when he was reaching new levels of success, I just thought, okay, he's fulfilling his dream. He's reaching financial success. And there is not there. I have signed something that does not give me any participation in his success. So I think as he reached those different markers, and people ask me, and the book centers on whether there were red flags during the 20 years. And I still can't find red flags about that point to him doing what he did, walking out the way he did with no warning and no explanation. But there are red flags of his financial self-protectedness there were clear signs from before the time we got married, when he asked to change the prenup, that he was going to look out for himself, in some cases at my expense. And I willfully did not see those. And there are reasons for those. He had a financial trauma as a child, and he worked very, very hard. And there are reasons that I can look to that are not mean-spirited. They're about who he is as a person and who he grew to be. But I really regret not looking out for myself more financially in my marriage.
Do you think that women are naive sometimes financially going into relationships, especially because the assumption still is that men are going to out-earn their wives?
Yes,
Even though statistically that's almost no longer true.
I think women are willfully naive about it. And I know both breadwinners and non-breadwinners who have handed over their financial lives to their husbands. I think UBS did a study about women breadwinners who still do it. And I think it's something that's ingrained in us, that the man is supposed to manage the money, and we are perfectly capable of doing it, and perhaps more capable of doing it than men are. And I think it's something about our historical gender roles and our belief that men are more suited to finance and we're more suited to domestic roles. But that should really change, and I'll make sure it changes for my daughters and my son.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and you hear it from so many women when they get divorced. Well, I should ask you, when you now the book has come out,
what have you heard from other women who ended up also getting divorced and unexpectedly?
I've gotten DMs, more than 1,000 DMs since the book came out, of women who have been through almost exactly a good 100 at least of women who've been through exactly the same thing. But I did hear as I was writing the book of other people who have been through this and had similar feelings of alienation and isolation and heartbreak and pain. And sometimes not because they were left, but because they left the marriage. And I think some of those feelings are really universal in divorce.
Yeah, and also I think the change of social status and the change of just social arrangements certainly took me by surprise when I separated, and when we very happily had Finn to stay with us. We were in a process of separation. COVID happened. We had a house full of kids. And actually, it was a very fun time in a way, but it was also slightly weird and dysfunctional. But we got through it. We got through it. And the children, I think, have all had very close friendships as a result of it. So you come from a family of women who are well-known, highly capable women who also struggled with relationships. Do you think some of this is, what's the word? Is it epigenetic? I mean, is there something? You said at one point in the book that you were trying to break that cycle by acknowledging what had gone wrong.
Yes, I think there is I think that absolutely is true in my family. And I struggle with why. I think there's something similar about us, but also very different. They were much more public facing. They were attracted to men who are very public, star quality, super successful. And it almost made a little bit more sense that their partners were unfaithful. And I really tried to do something different. I married a man in a gray flannel suit at a law firm who was never yelled, was very calm and steady, never made me worry in the same way. Wasn't flirtatious. But I repeated it, and it was much worse because those men, my grandmother's husband and my mother's boyfriend of 30 years, begged to be forgiven, wanted to stay in the relationship, and mine did not. He was just gone. But I wondered, was I really attracted to the same thing that they were? Did I find that kind of elusiveness or something that was not quite present? Did I find that appealing? Or did men like that find us appealing in some way, that we were accommodating in a way? But what I landed on almost involuntarily, because I was just so open about what had happened, was that perhaps there's a way to break this pattern by being very, very open about it, not sweeping it under the rug. I think what they did, it was equated with being graceful and good and being a good woman, was to not talk about it, to really clean up the mess and to protect the man, and not just protect him, but protect his belief in his own importance, to protect his reputation at their own expense, because they were managing heartbreak. And what I've tried to do is to talk about my situation, talk about what happened in a factual way. This is what happened, and this is what it felt like, without really just bad-mouthing him. And some people don't buy that distinction, but I think there is a way to walk that line, which is what I try to do with my children, which is to acknowledge their reality. They do not have bedrooms at their father's house. They do not go on vacations with him. I don't understand why. It's hard to explain why, but he cannot create a home for them right now. But I try not to say, your dad is a jerk or anything like that. So I think I am hopeful that in doing this, in really owning my story, which is in many ways a humiliating story, that I am giving my children some understanding of our history, and that hopefully they will make different choices, be attracted to different partners, where there's less of a risk of this.
I think the most shocking part in the book is when you're negotiating the custody settlement and he says, I don't really want any kind of custody. I'll see them once a week on a Thursday. And he doesn't even want that written in. I mean, it just seemed a remarkable thing for anybody to do. I mean, you have this man who's earned an enormous amount of money in your marriage that he squirreled away. And you allude to the fact that, in fact, his own father had terrible financial problems and they were forced out of the apartment that they were living in and ended up in sort of penury. So I can see his desire not to repeat that situation. Were you surprised by the fact that he didn't want any actual custody arrangements, which meant he would definitely have access to the children?
He said it the first day, so I knew it was a possibility, but I kept thinking he would change his mind. I thought he would change his mind once he bought an apartment. I thought he would change his mind when he realized how little he was seeing them. But he is a very certain person when he makes a decision, and he really stuck to this. And it was devastating to me because I am a child of divorce, 2 divorces, and I really wanted joint custody. My children all have friends that go back and forth, and I really believe in it. And so what I offered up was a 50-50 split, alternating Christmases, you know what it's like.
Like the standard divorce settlement that people don't love, but at least gives both parents access.
Yeah, but it's important. And he did not want to do it. He really felt like he had been a great father and he had done it, and that he was not interested in doing the day-to-day parenting, the applying to college, the Spanish test, all that kind of waiting for a kid at curfew. He did not want to do that. He has always been kind and loving with them. He keeps in touch with them by text. They go to dinner occasionally. They go to a Rangers game occasionally. And my kids, to their great credit, have figured out comfortable ways to see him that make him comfortable too. Playing tennis, going to a game, and they have a relationship. It is just not that shared parenting, shared worry situation. And that's been hard. That's been hard for me, but I think it is, in a way, it's a short period of time for me, and he's their father forever, and I hope that they remain close.
Well, I can understand no parent wanting to have to sit down and go through the college applications process. It's absolutely brutal. So when I read your book in one go, I was away for the weekend. I kept reading parts of it out to the friend I was traveling with. And his question for you was, how do your kids feel about you writing this book? Because it's very open. As you say, you've tried not to make this a revenge memoir. It doesn't read like a revenge memoir. It very much reads like a book, as you say, which just lays out, this is what happened to me. This is how I got through. And I want to come back to your walks in a minute. But the friend I was traveling with felt very strongly that this could be damaging to your kids. Did you talk to them about writing the book, and have they read it?
Yes, it's been a long period of time. It started with Modern Love, when that was picked for publication
in the New York Times, the essay column in the New York Times about love.
And we talked about that at that point. We talked about the book when I signed the book deal. We talked about what I wanted the book to be. We talked about the actual draft, which I put in a binder and put on my desk and said, whenever you want to come read it, rather than handing it to them and expecting a reaction. It's complicated for them. I think about that every single day. I thought about it every moment, every page that I wrote, was thinking about them reading it. And there is absolutely nothing in the book that they don't already know. There is nothing that is a surprise to them. And I think that they feel a combination of things. I think they're proud of me. I think they understand the reasons why I wrote it. And they love their dad, and they are protective and supportive of their dad. As you can probably tell, I'm talking about it in a way that I don't actually speak for them, because I think it is their prerogative to say how they feel about the book rather than me saying. And if I say they think it's fantastic, then it's like they're betraying their dad. But if I say they're uncomfortable with it, then they're betraying me. So there's no good way for me to talk about it. I will say they've been amazing, and I think they do understand what I'm trying to do. And I think when people read it, the overwhelming reaction is that they think long term this will be better for my kids than the absolute rupture that they had and not talking about it and not knowing about it. I've heard from a lot of children, adults who were children in this kind of scenario where the father left abruptly, or the mother. Every email that I've received has been so positive about having this text, and that they wish they had a text to refer to about what actually happened and what feelings were involved, and a recording of the life that they've actually lived. So I'm sure there are people who feel differently, like your friend or another child who went through this. But I think there's often just so much mystery about what happened, and why did my father leave, and which I still don't 100% know. But what happened during that very dark time in our lives, and why does no one talk about it? So it's both. I do think it will serve them, but I also know how complicated it is for them.
Right. And can you talk a little bit about these daily walks that you started going on? So you talked about lying in the fetal position on the cold bathroom floor, of really only coming out when your children needed you. And then throughout the summer and the first year of it, you start walking.
Yeah, I a friend, about a month in, I had to speed it up a little bit for the book, but about a month in of being catatonic, she said, just try and walk like just 100 yards down the driveway. And I did that, and I thought, okay, this actually feels like something I can do. And it just increased and increased to about 8 miles a day. And it was meditative. I think the feeling of your feet on the, hitting the ground. I was able to listen to different, I wasn't able to read it all, but I was able to listen to other books that of women in this situation. There are not that many. But I listened to Heartburn by Nora Ephron, which is a fiction.
Such a good book. Such a good book.
And Isabel Gillies' book, Happens Every Day, which is also
a great book. And she gives you a quote on your book, I think. I loved that book. I thought it was a brilliant book.
It really was. And it was a long time ago now. She wrote it before divorce memoirs were a thing at all. And it was incredible to hear her voice reading that to me. And I think also because it was COVID and so quiet, and you could walk for miles and not run into anyone, I would weep as I walked. And I would sort of have conversations with myself. I probably looked like a crazy person, but I think it really was walking through this pain. I was just fully experiencing it. And I think sometimes in life, when you're forced to go to work or pick up or whatever, or a dinner party, you kind of had to pull it together so much that you don't actually go through it. And that's what I did. And it was really life-saving for me, the walking.
Well, you can also add to your pile of divorce memoirs my own ex-husband's book, Exit Wounds, which
Yes.
I don't know if you've read, but he wrote about our split. It's largely about his mother's death, actually, and his sister's death, but
Yes.
and the end of our marriage gets his rightly I would say. And that was also an interesting one, because I was insistent on reading it, not actually for me. He's allowed to write what he wants about me, but for the children. I felt that I wanted to make sure there was nothing really untoward for the children. And in fact, your ex-husband read your essay for Modern Love correct and said, it's fine, it's well written. He didn't have an issue with it.
Yes, I was actually forced to send it to him, which I objected to. But now I'm glad that they had me do that. We had gotten through the whole editing process, and they said, now you have to show it to your ex so we can get his reaction. And I thought, how do women tell their stories if you have to go?
Right, if you need approval from their husband.
I think fact checking is appropriate, but I was surprised by that. And then I was even more surprised that he approved it. And I think part of that was he wanted to help me, and he wanted me to be able to do this thing that I really wanted to do. I also wonder if he still doesn't see a problem with the fact pattern. But with the book, I know that he has read it. He read it in the galley stage. I didn't give it to him, but someone else did. And I was, of course, nervous for that. It's a lot for any person to handle. But he did not let me know what he thought of it.
And is he still with the person that he was with at the beginning of the book?
Not that I know of. My understanding is it only lasted a few months. But I know nothing about his life. It's perfectly possible that they could be together. I've never heard from her. I've never heard from her husband. I've never heard from my husband about her. And we live just a few blocks away from each other, but I just don't know. And I've had to force myself. It's very easy to think about that person a lot, and I've had to really force myself to just. She's a detail in this that is not, relevant to my life anymore.
Well, I found the book unputdownable. I really did, Belle, and we loved having your son to stay during COVID.
I'm grateful. It's one of the most kind, wonderful things, and to this day, he knows how to do laundry because of you.
Well, you're very welcome. His future wife can thank
Yes,
me.
come and thank you. Yes.
Yeah, well, we had enormous fun with him, and I know what a difficult time it was for you. And I'm very glad that you've managed to produce a book at the end of it, and it's clearly speaking to so many people. It really is. So out of heartbreak comes art.
Yes, that's how it feels for me. Definitely. Thank you.
Well, so what are your plans now? Are you doing another book? I mean, I think the book that every woman needs is how to do a prenup.
That's true. That's true. I hope to move on from this subject. So I am turning to fiction, which is what I always wanted to do as a teenager, and I took a 30-year break from it. I find it much, much harder because none of it happened. So you have to invent it all. I find that really hard. But I'm looking forward to doing that. And then I'm still practicing as a lawyer doing immigration cases, and that takes up a good amount of my time. But if what comes from this is me having a life as a writer in part, I'm so happy and grateful for that.
Well, Belle Burden, thank you very much. And we look forward to talking to you when your first novel is published.
Thank you so much, Joanna.
Thank you so much, Joanna. Thank you, Belle. I really loved that conversation. Please let us know what you think. Have you read Belle's book? Let us know. Did you watch the Melania documentary? God help you, but please let us know what you think. And of course, remember to subscribe to us on YouTube at the Obsessed Podcast. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to hear more from me, subscribe to my Substack at obsessed.substack.com. Thank you to our producers, Devin Rogerino and Rachel Passer. And that's all for now. Thanks.